It's from this desk that the nation hears a great many promises about programs to be launched, governmental agencies to be set up, legislation to be introduced, laws to be signed. It's therefore really easy to believe that the person who sits in that chair behind this desk directs all that flows from it, that all government decisions rest with his wisdom or lack thereof. It's easy to think that from this desk called Resolute, the giant enterprise of the government, all $3.5 trillion worth of it every single year, rolls forward like a massive tide that sweeps away all those who stand before it. And at this time of year, with an election looming, that's how both candidates want you to see it. They want you to believe that they alone can take the government in the direction that the voters want to go. You won't hear a presidential candidate say, well, everything really kind of depends on which party controls Congress, or which the senior legislator gets the committee chairmanship to write the tax laws, or which way the Supreme Court rules on some arcane element of the law. They will make us all believe that they alone can deliver, that they alone can tilt the might of this U.S. government in one direction or another, that without their victory, the nation's course will be altered for worse or for better. Some of that's true. Most of that is really kind of nonsense. To think that one man in office, one man alone, can ruin or save America. Have we forgotten the sad and long human experience with Caesars and monarchs and dictators? That whatever the ambitions or dreams or even intelligence of a single man, that the rule of one can never compete with the wisdom of a free people. That is, after all, what we set up here in America. That's what set us afire in 1776. The idea that a rabble of free men organized into 13 different states, led by a weak and largely ineffectual central government, could be better and stronger and more durable than the King of Britain, the leader of the mightiest empire in the world. Nobody had seen anything like that since the fall of Rome. And here's the thing. Americans were right. If you look down here on the seal that is in the Oval Office, it says it right here, E pluribus unum. Out of many, one. Not ex una unus, out of one, one. It takes many of us to make America what it is, not just one person, not a man in the Oval Office, not 9 justices or 100 senators or 435 members of the House of Representatives. We have to remember this, especially this time of year, when presidential candidates tell you that they have a plan to fix this or change that or improve this. Just remember, they can't do it alone. They can't do it because they were never supposed to do it. You see, the idea that the president is supposed to be this all-knowing chieftain is hogwash. They were usually just simple men that lived in the woods most of their childhood. Presidents are ordinary men, and one day we'll see an ordinary woman sit behind this chair, this desk. They're not kings, they're not princes, they're not priests, they're not gods. Which brings me to another issue which has occupied the presidential campaign in the last few days. How dependent are we on the president? Dependency on government. It's at its highest level in the history of our country. It has been on a steady march. But now, most of the U.S. government budget exists to support citizens through transfers of wealth from one group of people to another group of people. Social Security and Medicare, Medicaid, food stamps, then housing assistance. It's all part of the same broad category, dependency. Practically speaking, all Americans at some point in their lives become government dependents. Social Security and Medicare, 2 programs nearly all Americans draw from. They're part of a big, giant government dependency system. I don't want to sit here and debate whether this is a good thing or a bad thing, or whether or not this is what the founders envisioned or not. I'm not here to focus on what this means for elections and why this puts non-dependent Americans at peril from an electoral perspective. I instead want to talk to you about the moral implications. What does it actually mean when every citizen becomes dependent on the government? What does that do to the individual? I mean, it's easy to generalize about government programs. They're there to help the poor. Help the poor. Well, we all want to help the poor. So if government is helping the poor, that's a good thing, right? But we know that the poor often aren't helped by government programs. Often, they are hurt by those programs. The vast expansion of the welfare state has destroyed marriages, fatherhood, the impulse of parents to work to feed their children, the sense of personal responsibility to teach your children. And this happens to those who are at the bottom of the ladder, the poor. Are you saying that the poor are immoral and lazy? Nope, not at all. Look, poor people don't want to be poor. But government programs for the poor need poor people. Otherwise, the government goes out of business. And as we know, government is very good at staying in business and growing at business. Show me a government program to help the poor, and I'll show you a government program that has to have the poor to stay that way. Otherwise, the government program goes away. So do poor people want to be poor? No. How do I know? Because I'm no different than you, and you're no different than them. Most of us have struggled at some point in our lives. Most of us drove a car when it was rusted out. Maybe didn't even have a floorboard in it. Most of us wore clothes that were falling apart or were hand-me-downs, or we got from someplace else. We got from a second-hand store. Most of us either ate rice and beans a few nights a week, or beans and weenies, or macaroni and cheese just to save money. We pushed our credit cards to the max. Most of us have been there. Some of us are still there now. I want you to know there's no shame in struggling. No shame also in needing help. But the question is, what happens when the government steps in and saves us from these problems because we're each too big to fail? Do the problems go away? Do individuals learn resilience? Do we force ourselves to learn a new and more marketable skill? Do we discover what decisions led us right to that place where we need somebody? Do we change because of our struggle for the better? Dependency is not nearly an economic state of being. There is economic dependency, but there's also moral dependency. I am really troubled by economic dependency in this country, but what worries me more is moral dependency. Moral dependency is what happens when citizens become complacent in their moral choices. It's what this guy always talked about, George Washington. And when you start doing that, it changes your own self-worth. Moral complacency is what happens when citizens, egged on by a permissive media, look at the guy who sits in this chair at this desk as a father figure, as a great protector, when people become dependent on him or the government. The head of the government is invested then with far more power than he is entitled. It's why this guy stepped down. He said, I'm not a king. Steadily, if we start looking at our president this way, we begin to accept the premise that the world spins right here. Right here. This is the axis. This is the power point. This is the center of the globe, and everything spins from this seal. It's not true. When you believe that a nation's leader can actually affect your life far beyond your ability to think or act, you reach a stage of moral emptiness. You reach the stage of moral slavery. This guy faced slavery, stared it down. It's no wonder that when dictators rise up, they always do two things first. They offer unbounded promises of economic prosperity, free health care, free food, free housing, regulations to protect you against any kind of wrongdoing. They'll protect you. Unsafe products that you never existed, they'll help you. And then they go after those who stand on moral heights of any free society. They go after the priests and the pastors and the ministers and the rabbis, the religious organizations who hold honor. And they worship no God except the God, the only God, God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. All those people are called bigots and hypocrites and chauvinists. All those who stand for something beside the government, we're told they're not to be trusted. We're all in this together, they say. We can't have priests telling us how to run things. We're in this together. This is how dependency works. First through the stomach, then through the heart. They understand that to seize power and retain it, they must have no competitor for the stomachs or the hearts of the citizenry. They feed and they clothe, and they bring citizens into a soft embrace. Those free markets, I know it's unfair, isn't it? And dangerous. You need protections. You need help. Oh, they're out to get you. You're not on your own anymore, they'll say. Come in from the cold and you'll be warm. Thus, they dull the instincts for individual initiative, not by banning it, but by making it harder. Dependency, therefore, is not a form of slavery like he faced, but as a vacation from the hard work of the demanding jobs, a break from the drudgery of a work week, a change from the ordinary difficulties of an ordinary life. Dependency makes it possible for an ordinary person to believe that the man who sits at this desk can reach right through, can come out of this office and reach right through your television screen or your computer screen and actually touch you personally, to make you more prosperous, to make you more morally righteous, to make you feel that you're part of a great society. And the best part is, you don't have to do anything. Just trust me. Sit back and watch the president work his magic. Oh, it's the greatest show on earth. It's a wonderful show. But that's all it is a show. At the end, there is a massive price to be paid. But I'll save that for another day. I don't want to spoil all the fun. Thanks for watching tonight. May God bless you, and may God bless the Republic.